Stop struggling.
No! No! No!
The festive atmosphere of Orlando International Airport, punctuated by a large Christmas tree, was abruptly shattered on a December day in 2024. What began as a routine day of travel would spiral into a raw display of confrontation and force, all stemming from a disturbance reported by airport staff. An officer was dispatched to the information desk, where an employee began to recount a troubling encounter. He explained that a man had behaved erratically, suddenly grabbing at his work tablet and then physically seizing him. The employee described being held against his will, unable to move away from the aggressive stranger. The altercation escalated when the man, following the employee to the main counter, violently struck a computer terminal, causing visible damage. The employee, while recounting the events, gestured towards the direction of the incident, his expression a mixture of professionalism and lingering shock. His testimony painted a clear picture of an unprovoked assault, setting the stage for law enforcement's intervention.
He came around to the booth and he grabbed him. First he tried to grab the tablets we use for communication, and then he sort of like tried to pin him against the booth, seemingly.
Where was he at? All right, position yourself exactly how. Like, were you here? Were you...
The first time I saw him over there.
Armed with this first-hand account, the officers scanned the bustling terminal and quickly located the individual matching the description. He was a middle-aged man, sitting slumped on a bench, a gray scarf wrapped around his neck. Initially, he appeared exhausted or perhaps disoriented, a solitary figure amidst the hurried travelers. An officer approached him cautiously, initiating a calm and direct line of questioning. The man's initial response was one of bewilderment. He looked up, his eyes weary, claiming to have no knowledge of any incident or confrontation. His denials were immediate and persistent, creating an immediate impasse. The officer's professional demeanor remained steady as he attempted to gather basic information, but the man's cooperation was non-existent. He seemed to exist in a fog of confusion and growing defensiveness, his posture shifting from passive to guarded.
You had Jameson here?
No.
Yeah, you didn't get here that drunk.
No.
The situation grew more tense when the officer requested a form of identification. The man flatly stated he did not have any, a common tactic of non-compliance that immediately raised the stakes. The officer, sensing the man's agitated state, informed him that he would need to stay put with the other officers present while the primary officer briefly stepped away. This instruction was met with a new level of hostility. The man's demeanor shifted from defensive to openly confrontational. As the officer continued to assess the situation, he began asking simple, standard questions to gauge the man's orientation and sobriety. He inquired about the current year and the name of the president, routine questions designed to determine a person's mental state. This line of inquiry, however, proved to be a trigger. The suspect reacted with explosive anger. He leaned forward, his voice rising, accusing the officer of trying to test his mental stability. He aggressively challenged the officer's authority, his body language screaming defiance and transforming the tense standoff into a volatile confrontation on the verge of erupting.
The president right now.
Wait, I'm not the one that needs to be checked. You tell me.
The president right now.
You tell me who's the president right now.
No, you tell me.
Are you checking my mental stability right now?
The officer recognized that verbal communication had reached its limit. The man escalating aggression and complete refusal to cooperate left no other option. The decision was made to take him into custody. The moment the officers moved to physically restrain him, the man exploded into action. He resisted with surprising strength, refusing to allow his hands to be placed behind his back. The confrontation spilled from the bench onto the floor of the airport terminal. What followed was a chaotic and intense struggle. The man thrashed and fought as multiple officers converged to subdue him. It was a raw and difficult takedown, with the officers using their combined weight and training to gain control of the flailing suspect in full view of the public. The struggle was protracted, with the man continuing to fight even as he was pinned to the patterned carpet of the terminal floor. The officers worked methodically amidst the chaos, focusing on securing his arms to apply the handcuffs.
¿Estás seguro?
Una puta idea qué pasó ahí.
No tienes ni puta idea qué va a suceder ahí.
No.
No. Ok, pues dale, dame un segundito, quédate aquí con estos dos oficiales. Enseguida. Pero si me entero que le...
Once the handcuffs were finally secured, the physical resistance was over. The man was carefully lifted to his feet by several officers, his demeanor now a mixture of exhaustion and simmering anger. He was escorted away from the public terminal area and into a more private corridor, the sounds of the bustling airport fading behind them. The journey ended in what appeared to be a small transport vehicle or a secure holding room within the airport, a stark contrast to the open space of the main hall. Inside this confined area, the officers began a systematic search of his person. His earlier defiance had faded, replaced by a sullen compliance, as an officer patted down his clothing and checked his pockets. The other officers stood guard, their presence ensuring the situation remained under control. The man's face was a mask of fatigue and frustration, as he endured the procedure, the full weight of his actions now settling in. The incident, which had started with a seemingly random act of aggression and escalated into a violent struggle with law enforcement, had reached its inevitable conclusion. The man's disruptive and dangerous behavior had clear and severe consequences. Following his arrest and processing, he was formally charged with a series of serious offenses that reflected the totality of his actions. The official charges were laid out, each one a direct result of his choices during the encounter. He faced legal repercussions for his physical confrontation with the airport employee, and his violent resistance against the officers who were simply doing their job. The finality of the charges marked the end of the chaotic episode at the airport, a stark reminder of how quickly a public space can become a scene of conflict and consequence.
He was charged with battery on a law enforcement officer, disorderly intoxication, and resisting an officer without violence.